should we give men bonuses to encourage them to work in primary schools? 0207 862 2222 is the number. Let's have a look at the stats. In nursery schools, it's an even smaller group of that. But there we go. Look, a quarter of primary schools have no men at all. 1.2 million kids have no male teacher. 6 out of 7 teachers in primary schools are women. And in nurseries, it's a smaller group. As I said, just 3 workers out of every 100 are men. The government has announced plans to encourage fathers who might already have the skills to look after young children to then move into early years education. It's giving them £1,000 bonuses should the government do the same for male primary school teachers. Will it help with Britain's toxic masculinity crisis? Ben, what's wrong with us? What's stopping us becoming primary school teachers?
I think this is a great idea, Matt. I've got to say, I think this is a really good idea. Anything that helps get more men into these jobs where they can be male role models, including for a lot of young boys who don't have dads at home, who don't have good, strong male role models elsewhere in their life, is a good thing. Your question's about why we're not doing it. It's not about the money. I think this is a good idea, but it's not going to change a great deal because what we've got to change is a culture. And right now we have a culture that I think is still quite outdated that basically says that raising children, whether that's in the home or whether it's in a job like working in a nursery or school, is women's work and it's not for men. And that is what is putting off men applying for these jobs. And we've got to get past that. We live in a modern world. It's the 21st century. It's 2025. Working in a nursery is just as much for a man as a woman, or at least it should be. And it isn't right now.
It's got worse. We are seeing fewer and fewer men in primary schools. Do you know why that would be, Alice? Can you identify a societal shift? Is it what Ben's saying, that they're just not seen as men's jobs? Are we becoming more masculine and proud in that way?
I'm interested in what Ben has to say about the culture, but I think on the practicality of this policy, what's a female nursery teacher supposed to think about her male colleague getting £1,000 to do the job? I don't think this is the answer for early years. The problem with early years education is that we have the most expensive childcare in the developed country. I remember what this was like when I went back to work after having my daughter. Her nursery fees accounted for about 80% of my salary. There was no point in me working. I was lucky enough that my husband was able to subsidise me to do so. So this is just an expensive waste of time. And I think as a parent, I don't care what gender a nursery school worker is. I want my child to be looked after, cared for and safe. I don't think it's that surprising that women are more naturally attracted to working with younger children. I think they're just more nurturing by their nature. It's the same reason why more men work in construction jobs. It's just
so women just naturally aren't as good at building walls?
Yeah.
Really?
Less interested in doing it and less physically capable
I disagree.
of doing
I don't think it's
so.
about, personally, I don't think it's about nature. I think this is about what we condition and what we kind of raise boys and girls to be. You give young boys from the age of 2 or 3, you give them Lego, you give them toys, you give women dolls. We raise young girls to be nurturing. We raise young boys to be things like builders.
I honestly think my experience of raising children has... I used to think that as well. I used to think everything was nature, everything was nurture, and there's no nature to it at all. I gave my daughter trucks and Lego to play with. She's just more interested in dolls.
But do you really think... your husband is not as... I don't want to make it too personal, but your husband is not as capable as you at raising children?
I wouldn't say that, but I would say he'd be less capable than me of being a nursery school teacher.
Why?
That's a very different job. That's looking after like 6 kids at once.
We have to break there, but don't go anywhere. We'll be taking your calls on this after the break. We're going to go back to bonuses for male primary school teachers. Give us a call on 0207 862 2222. Ben, we worked for years to achieve or try to achieve equal opportunities, and in one fell swoop we turn to women teachers and say, you're worth £1,000 less than that guy who's just walked through the door.
It's a fair point. I think there would be some objections, but you look rightly at the work that has been done to promote, get more women into jobs that are typically male-dominated, special schemes, places that are designated only for women and so on. Rightly so, because we've got to balance the playing field. Given all that, if people now have an issue with one scheme that's designed to help men into one profession where only 3% of nursery school teachers are men, where they are so kind of underrepresented, I don't think anyone could realistically have an issue with it.
I mean, adolescents, the drama that we saw, which was about a boy who was just going into secondary school being able to access toxic masculinity online. A male role model, Alice, would do wonders, wouldn't it? When they spot those kind of problems, to just go, no, you can be a bloke and you can be kind.
Yeah, I completely. I mean, I do think that this rise of toxic masculinity, the appeal of figures like Andrew Tate, is one of the biggest kind of unspoken problems in our country and across the developed world, and that male role models are clearly extremely important. I think fatherless households are a big problem. And of course, we would want to see more male teachers in primary schools, but that's just the tip of the iceberg of this problem, right? This problem is a consequence of the economic emancipation of women. The fact that there are many, many more women in the workforce has meant that men now have fewer just traditionally masculine jobs that they can do. It means that they're competing with 50% more of the population for their jobs, for their livelihoods, and that is just a much bigger, huge social change that's happened very rapidly since around the 1970s as a result of feminism and female emancipation. And it's just a bigger issue than a few male teachers in primary schools. We're also seeing it coming through in voting patterns for younger people. If you look at the voting intentions of 18 and 24-year-olds, it's massively divided along gender lines. Lots of young men voting Reform, lots of young women voting Green. So this has huge consequences for all of us. We do need to be talking about it, but I just don't think a kind of superficial, let's get a few male teachers in schools is going to fix this much bigger structural problem.
You're absolutely spot. I completely agree with that. It's the same. But the likes of Andrew Tate and these kind of really toxic masculine influencers, when you talk to the men who are attracted to them, and in some cases quite obsessed with them, it quite quickly becomes clear that what they offer those young men is a sort of father figure. Often men that have grown up in homes where there's no dads, they don't have these other father figures. And Andrew Tate becomes the kind of, what sort of man do I want to be? Here's the guy that's telling me. Whereas if you do have ideally a dad, but if not dad, then a male nursery teacher or a primary school teacher, you don't need the likes of Andrew Tate.
They can be massively influential at that age, particularly as you start to grow away from your parents. You're looking for something else. I was lucky enough to have a primary school teacher who has influenced me to this day. He taught me how to debate. I loved the way he looked, the way he dressed, and he read and he wrote, and that was kind of a model for me going forward. So, it can make a huge difference. I want to take some calls. Poppy's in London. Poppy, what do you think about this? Does a bonus make sense as a way to incentivise men back into primary school teaching?
My most important teacher when I was at primary school was a guy called Mr. Ord, who was our head teacher I'm in my 60s now, but he was my head teacher when I first started school, and he was so influential. He was an amazing guy. He taught us we lived in the countryside, and he took us out on great long walks around the country and taught us about how crops grew and what pollinators were and what they were important for, and he kept bees, and he was amazing.
But Poppy, that knowledge, that experience and that passion for teaching could equally be a woman. That could be a woman's role. There's no reason why a woman wouldn't have that fantastic ability.
A woman could possibly have had the same, but he talked about all kinds of things. He taught us just so much. He taught me how to do things like build model yachts.
Right.
And how to. I lived on the Welsh borders, and so I lived by a river. And he taught us how to make model yachts and go and play on the river, and how to stay safe by the river and sail our yachts and have fun. And
what difference did it make to you that he was a man? That it was a male role model, if you like, that was spending this much time and attention on you all?
I think it showed us that men could be great, whether they were your father or your grandfather or anybody, that he wasn't something to be scared of. Too many people tried to tell us when we were kids that, men can be nasty, men can be dangerous. He wasn't. And just like your dad, just like your granddad, your uncles, your nephew, I didn't have nephews then, but I had cousins who were male, and it was like, don't be scared of the guys.
Yeah, it sounds like you got lucky. It sounds like a great teacher, and
he was an amazing teacher.
A very kind
one
man
of the
as
best.
Well. Yeah, I'm pleased to hear that. Thanks for your call, Poppy. Chris is in Hampshire. Chris, does that bonus make sense to you, or is it just going to be a snub to all of the women teachers who are doing such a brilliant job already?
No, I think it'd be a good idea to incentivise men to go into a class, because for some reason men just don't seem to go into a profession. Because even when I was a small child, I had one male in my infant school who was a caretaker. I had 2 or 3 teachers in my junior school, But once I got to senior school, then there were 8, but all the men had massive impacts on my life because they were very encouraging, especially a teacher called Mr. Baker, who really set me up for life because he was a very engaging teacher. But the younger you get, the less males there seem to have been.
Well, Chris, I wonder, if now all it would do would be incentivise the wrong kind of teachers to come in. If they don't have that passion already, will £1,000 really make that much difference?
I'm not sure it may necessarily be a financial incentive, but we need to find out why males in general are being put off from going into the profession to start with. And once we understand that, then we can tackle it.
Yeah, OK, thanks for your call, Chris. Billy's in South Ayrshire. What do you reckon, Billy? £1,000 to get some men through the door of primary schools?
Morning, Matt. To tell you the truth, it doesn't really matter whether you're a male teacher or a female teacher, because I believe in equal opportunities, regardless of whether you're a bloke or a woman.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a principle across the board, that if you incentivise people based on their gender, then you're heading for trouble.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter, because in my primary school I had one male substitute teacher, and I also had a male pupil support teacher. In secondary school I had 2 pupil support teachers, Mr. Fleming and Mr. Davidson. I also had a male RA teacher who was a principal teacher, and to this day I still keep in touch with the RA teacher, because when I unfortunately was in hospital back in 2012, when he could, got up to Glasgow to visit me when I was in hospital, and we're still friends to this day, myself and this RA teacher.
One of the lovely things about this debate is hearing the names of so many influential male teachers, or teachers full stop, across the board. Thanks for your call, Billy.